Thank you to everyone for attending tonight's meeting of the San Bruno Community Foundation's Board of Directors. We are in person at the San Bruno Senior Center, and we welcome members of the public who are attending via Zoom. We appreciate your patience if we have any technical. We ask speakers to speak loudly and clearly so that the microphones can pick you up and that our online guests as well as everyone in the room can hear you. A couple of technical items before we get to the content of tonight's meeting. Please know that we want to hear from you. Members of the public who are here at the Senior Center in person, if you would like to speak during public comment for items within the jurisdiction of the board that are not on the agenda or in any of our agendized items, please fill out one of the speaker cards that is on the table near the door. If you are attending on Zoom and you would like to address the board during public comment for items not on the agenda or on any of our agendized items, please use the raise your hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Once you raise your hand, the executive director will see that someone wants to talk, and she will let you know, and she will let me know that you are waiting. When it's your turn to speak, the executive director will call your name and unmute you. If you are joining us by telephone, you may also address the board during public comment by pressing *9, and the executive director will address you and unmute you. Speakers will be given 3 minutes to address the board. Please note that the individuals may only speak once per agendized item. Leslie, did we receive any public comment via email?
We did not.
Okay, great. Let's begin the meeting. Today, I now call the regular meeting of the San Bruno Community Foundation's Board of Directors of March 5th, 2025 to order. Roll call. Leslie will perform the roll calls as we have 2 of our members of the board on Zoom.
Board member Belinda Wong.
Present.
Board member Sophia Perry.
Present.
Treasurer Jacqueline.
Here.
Secretary Raul Gomez.
Here.
Vice President Jim Ruane.
I'm here if you'll let me in.
And President Melissa Natani Jones.
Here. Tonight we have 2 board members invoking separate provisions of the Brown Act to attend the meeting remotely. Unfortunately, Secretary Raul Gomez is not able to attend in person tonight. Raul is under the weather with the flu and has notified us that he will be attending remotely for just cause, and legal counsel Heather Minner has confirmed that Secretary Gomez may do so under the Brown Act meeting provisions, provided a quorum of the board attends in person. Given that I see 4 of our board members are here with us tonight, Secretary Gomez may attend remotely. Secretary Gomez is required by the Brown Act. Could you please let us know if there's anyone 18 years of age or older in the room with you, and if so, your relationship to them?
None.
Great. Thank you. Please let us know if an adult does join you in the room later in the evening. Because Secretary Gomez is attending via Zoom, Executive Director Jaramillo will call the roll for all votes tonight. We'll move on to item number 3. Vice President Jim Ruane is not able to attend tonight's meeting in person and is requesting to participate remotely under the personal emergency provision of the Brown Act. Unlike the just cause provision of the Brown Act, a request to appear remotely due to a personal emergency requires an approval by the board. Before the board takes action on this request, Vice President Ruane, please explain the personal emergency circumstances for your need to appear remotely at this meeting.
Thank you, Melissa. Yesterday I had a very lengthy procedure. I had to do with an eye condition that I have, and the doctor said it'd be a good idea to just lay low for a day or two, not attend meetings or go to work, but I'd sure like to attend tonight remotely to voice my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice President Ruane. Are there any comments from the public? Anything online?
No, nothing online.
For Vice President Ruane to participate remotely, there must be a quorum attending in person, and I confirm that I see 4 of our board members here in person tonight. To participate remotely due to the personal emergency, a majority of the board must approve the request at the beginning of the meeting. May I have a motion to approve the request of Vice President Jim Ruane to participate in the meeting remotely due to an emergency circumstance?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. I will. Vice President Jim Ruane is required by the Brown Act. Could you please let us know if there's anyone 18 years of age or older in the room with you, and if so, your relationship to them?
No one.
Thank you. Please do let us know if any adult does join you in the room later in the evening.
I will.
And then I'll turn it over to Leslie for a roll call vote, please.
Board Member Belinda Wong.
Aye.
Board Member Supriya Perry.
Aye.
Board Member Treasurer Packlin.
Aye.
Secretary Raul Gomez.
Aye.
Vice President Jim Ruane.
Aye.
And President Melissa Natani Jones.
Aye. Thank you. Would any members of the public like to address the board on the topic that is within the jurisdiction of the board but not on the agenda? For those on Zoom, please indicate so by the raise of your hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen.
There's no one on Zoom.
Okay, anyone in the public? Okay. All right, we'll move over to item number 5. Approval of minutes. I will turn it over to Secretary Gomez.
Thank you. President Melissa Natani Jones, in your meeting packet are minutes from our meeting. Excuse me. For your review. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments about our meeting minutes? Okay, there are no questions. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. We'll now move over to item number 6. I'm sorry.
Board Member Belinda Wong.
Aye.
Board Member Supriya Perry.
Aye.
Treasurer Packlin.
Aye.
Secretary Raul Gomez.
Aye.
Vice President Jim Ruane.
Aye.
And President Melissa Natani Jones.
Aye. See what happens when Raul and Jim aren't here? Okay, now we'll move on to item number 6, Executive Director's Report, and we'll turn it over to you, Leslie.
Thank you. Good to see everyone here tonight. Some of you remotely. My written report is in your packets, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of items tonight. First, our insurance policy renewals. The consent calendar includes the resolution authorizing me to bind a new policy for our office directors and officers liability insurance as the current policy expires on March 21st. The foundation's commercial general liability, property, cyber liability, and non-owned hired auto liability insurance policies with the Philadelphia insurance companies, which are all bundled together into our commercial package, as well as the workers' compensation insurance policy with the Hartford, are also up for renewal on March 21st. For the commercial bundle, our current insurer offered the renewal package at the same price as last year. So there was no increase, which is great. And under my contract authority, I renewed the policy. For the workers' compensation policy, the insurer has renewed the foundation's policy with an estimated total premium of $875, which is actually a decrease from last year. So that is good. That has also been renewed. Both policies go into effect on March 21st. Second item is the board appointments. As you know, we've been without a 7th board member since former board member Irving Torres resigned last summer. The city clerk solicited applications starting in, I think, December with a January 10th deadline to fill his term, the remainder of his term, which is only actually through this calendar year. Under the city council's policies and procedures, for the interview, when the city council does the interviews, 2 board members are able to participate in that, and so those took place, and Treasurer Lynn and President Natani Jones represented the foundation on February 24th. The council is expected to appoint a new board member at its March 11th meeting. So hopefully we will have someone at our next meeting taking Maureen's spot. And the last thing is just your ethics requirements. Just a reminder for those of you who have not done so yet to submit your Form 700, your conflict of interest annual statement, and if you need to, your ethics training in the very near future, or I'll keep bugging you. Thank you to those who have already done those.
Thank you. That concludes the executive director's report. Moving on to item number 7, consent. Any comments from the public or any online?
There are no questions online.
Sorry, guys. Now moving on to item number 7. It's consent calendar. We have 2 items on the consent calendar today as listed in the agenda. Would any members of the public like to comment on the consent items?
No questions online.
Okay, if there's no hand raised, we'll proceed to vote. Unless there's any questions from the board, I call for a motion to adopt the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Leslie, will you please take a roll call vote?
Board member Belinda Wong,
Aye.
board member Sophia Perry,
Aye.
treasurer Pat Glenn,
Aye.
secretary Raul Gomez.
Aye.
Vice president Jim Ruane,
Aye.
president Melissa Natani Jones.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 8, conduct of business. Believe it or not, we have finally come to our last update from the city on the construction of our new recreation and aquatic center. As you know, the RAC is the foundation's most significant legacy project. The city and the foundation celebrated a momentous milestone last August with the grand opening of the facility. We know there were a number of follow-up items on the punch list that were taken care of over the last 6 months, and we're eager to hear the final report on the construction project. Before we hear from the Community Services Director, I want to give a brief update on our RAC grant payments. As you know, the foundation is supporting the design and construction of the RAC with grants totaling $51.5 million. As detailed in the staff report in your meeting packet, as of today, the foundation has paid out a total of $51.2 million in RAC grant payments and has a balance of just over $300,000 left to distribute. Now I turn the podium over to Community Services Director Travis Carlin for the report. And Travis, welcome back.
Thank you, President Natani Jones and members of the board. I'm happy to be back here in San Bruno. I took a little extended vacation, but I'm back. And I'm here to present on the closeout of the Recreation and Aquatic Center. This is our agenda for tonight. Next slide, sorry. This is our agenda for tonight. I'm going to let you know what the objective is. I'm going to go over the background of the project, and then discuss the project closeout, and then open it up for any questions that you might have. Next slide. So the objective tonight is for me to provide you an update on the closeout of the RAC. Next slide. So the background, the San Bruno RAC, the San Bruno Recreation and Aquatic Center was 10 years in the making. In 2015, as you know, the San Bruno Community Foundation initiated a comprehensive community listening campaign to gather input on utilizing restitution funds received after the 2010 PG&E gas line explosion in San Bruno's Crestmore neighborhood. This effort led to a 2016 facilitated community discussion where replacing the Veterans Memorial Recreation Center and swimming pool emerged as the highest priority. In response, the city of San Bruno developed the Recreation and Aquatic Center project located at San Bruno City Park. Next slide, please. The project occurred in 3 stages. There was conceptual design development led by Group 4 Architecture Research and Planning, Inc., which included exploring program alternatives, site analysis, building design options, budget considerations, and operation strategies. Extensive community engagement was conducted with over 1,700 participants following or providing feedback on various aspects of the project. A Recreation and Aquatic Center Advisory Committee was formed, comprising of council members, San Bruno Community Foundation board members, San Bruno Park and Recreation Commission, and city staff to guide the project. Next slide, please. Schematic designs and construction documents were also prepared, and it was also led by Group 4 Architecture, it included schematic design development, design reviews, construction documents, plan checks, bid documents, bid document preparation, bidding and award support, and construction support. Additional infrastructure improvements such as realignment of city parkway, parking and landscape upgrades, and the demolition of existing facilities were also planned. During this period, Griffin was brought on board to help with value engineering and constructability review. Certain elements were bidded as add alternates to meet the budget. Next slide, please. Construction of the rack was awarded to Lathrop Construction, Inc. They were involved in site preparation, demolition of existing facilities, infrastructure improvements, and a full-scale construction of the new recreation and aquatic center. It also encompassed realigning City Parkway, installing an engineered channel, upgrading parking and landscaping, and installing essential building systems. Elements that were previously bid add alternates were also re-added to the scope throughout the construction. The construction contract was awarded in June 2021, with work commencing in September of 2021. Consort Project Management provided project management services similar to that provided by staff, providing coordination between the city, construction manager, contractors, and the stakeholders, and monitoring the budget, scope, and schedule throughout the project. Griffin Structures was instrumental during the construction phase and provided the service construction management and inspection. Griffin Structures was tasked with overseeing the work of the architects, contractor, and subcontractors to ensure adherence to the city's quality, budget, and timeline expectations. Additional stats of the construction contracts that I can share with you is that there were 962 RFIs. An RFI is a request for information from the contractor. And this really highlights the complexity and the uniqueness of a building of this size and magnitude. There were 51 ASIs, which are architectural supplemental instructions. There were 73 change orders in the project and 590 final punch list items that we had to go through. Next slide, please. The rack officially opened on August 24th, it opened on July 24th, 2024, with a grand opening on August 24th, 2024, and was officially closed out on February 25th, 2025 by the City Council, marking an approximate 10-year timeline from the project's inception to the project's completion. It has quickly become a premier destination for the San Bruno community. And just being back since a month ago, I'm already seeing that our numbers have gone up in the facility and it's getting used quite a bit. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm just going to go through this table real quick. So these are just some general information about the project and costs associated with it. So our project architect Group 4, the expenditure on that was about $6.5 million. The Lara Field parking lot project was about a little over $1 million. And then the construction contract for the rack project through Lathrop Construction was about almost $50,000. And then we had consultant support, including project management, construction management, inspection, environmental, material and testing support, compliance, traffic engineering, surveying, planning, building permit review, utilities, and building and energy commissioning, and other things. And that came in just under $3.5 million. And then additionally, we had permits, advertising, furnitures and fixtures and equipment, city staff, and miscellaneous costs that came in almost at $1.5 million. So it's estimated that we are going to be returning about $33,778 to the general fund, which means that this was a very tight project as we closed it out. Next slide, please. On its first 6 months of being operational, the RAC has been recognized by the American Society of Civil Engineers, or otherwise known as ASCE, Region 9, and the ASCE San Francisco section as an outstanding architectural engineering project. Next slide, please. And I want want to just thank the San Bruno Community Foundation for this generous gift to the community. It means a lot to be a part of it, and I'm excited to continue to be a part of it. I also want to do a little shout out to Matt Lee, Public Works Director, and his team. It was not easy to come to a closeout. They had a lot of punch list items, a lot of things to go through. So him and his team did an exceptional job of wrapping up this project and getting it complete and the closeout to City Council, and it has been filed with the county. So next slide, and I'm available for any questions you might have.
Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I just want to say congratulations.
Through the chair regarding the rack. Can you hear me? Okay, I don't hear Melissa or anyone else.
We can hear you.
Okay, good. A couple of questions, three of them. First of all, my understanding is the PG&E solar panels have been activated. If that's the case, that's great. And I just like to know in the future, maybe another 2, 3, 4 months, you have an idea of what impact they had on the operation of the building. If there's some savings there, just to see a comparison of what you've been paying for a lot of the power down there versus the turning on of those panels. Just curious. Second, how's the staffing going? You can answer that. And then what are your plans for the summer and going forward? I know we had the $2.25 million allotted for potential new programs and things like that. I'd just like to get an idea about what's happening there. Thank you. And I can't hear you.
I stand closer to the owl. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now. Good.
I'll stand over here. We actually had a complete turnover of our HR department in the city, and we have a whole new HR team. So they're doing some things a little bit different with recruiting. And then they're also doing some things different with the software that we're using for recruiting and such. So we have a very good HR manager who's in place now, and they have a lot of these systems down. I met with him last week, and we're going to be launching all of our summer recruitments either by the end of this week or very early next week to the public. The other thing that Damien is working on with his team is to put together a job fair to generate interest for this summer. He can share with you a little bit more about that because he's going to be doing the next presentation that will give you all the answers to what's coming up.
Okay, great. I may have missed it because I couldn't hear, but did you say anything about solar?
I did not.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, Jim, I don't have the information on that tonight, but I can come back and share that at a later date.
Okay, just curious. Maybe another 3 or 4 months, we can just get an idea of the impact these solar panels have had. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Congratulations.
Thank you. Do you mind if I rearrange the furniture so they can hear better?
Oh,
Is that
no.
okay? I'll just move this up a little bit so that way they can hear Damien. There you go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay,
Ask for questions for the public.
are there any questions from the public?
There are no questions from the public online.
Okay, great, thank you so much. Moving on to item B, receive report on the RAC startup programming and outreach activities grant from the city of San Bruno. Last September, the board approved a $2.25 million grant to the city of San Bruno to support startup programming and outreach activities at the RAC over 3 years. The foundation is committed to supporting a successful startup phase for the RAC and helping ensure that the facility's operations get launched on financially sustainable footing, and thus this funding is intended to underwrite programs that promote access, marketing, and outreach, and the ramp up of operations. Under the terms of the grant, the city is to provide an update to the foundation board meeting twice in the first year and once each year in the second and third years of the grant. So this is the city's first oral report in the year one of the grant, and Community Services Deputy Director Damian Sandholm will share to the board the ways in which the city is utilizing the grant plans this year. As you may recall, the year one allocation for this grant is $1 million. No grant payments have yet been distributed on this grant, as payments will be made on an annual basis starting in August 2025, based on the actual expenses incurred in the previous year and documented in the annual grant report. Damian.
Good evening, President Atani Jones and Foundation Board members. My name is Damian Sandholm. I am the Deputy Director for the City of San Bruno's Community Services Department. I am here this evening to give an update on the Startup Programming and Outreach Activities Grant received by the City of San Bruno to support the new Recreation and Aquatic Center. Next slide, please. Here is the agenda for tonight's presentation. We'll cover an overview, the purpose of the grant, the RAC events that we have done so far and we are planning to do, some of our grant subsidized programs, some RAC administrative strategies, a financial summary, and our outlook for the future. Next slide, please. This presentation provides an update on the startup grant funding awarded by the San Bruno Community Foundation for the San Bruno Recreation Aquatic Center, also referred to as the RAC in this presentation. This grant was established to provide financial support for the successful launch and initial operation of the facility. The opening timeline for the grant was delayed due to various factors commonly affecting large-scale construction projects. In the spring of 2024, staff identified the need to establish a target opening date of July 24th to ensure a structured approach to project completion. Successfully ramping up operations for a facility of this scale requires several critical steps, including stabilizing staffing, developing programs, and coordinating with key partners. However, delays impacted the planned phased-out rollout of initial programming, making it imperative to open the facility as soon as it was ready for operations. Key components for the RAC's long-term operational success include fostering community access and engagement, evaluating financial performance, and continuously assessing program and service quality to meet the expectations of the San Bruno community. Next slide, please. With the opening of the RAC, San Bruno once again has a thriving community hub for events and programs. This past October, the RAC hosted our reimagined Halloween event, the Monster Mash Bash. This event included pumpkin decorating, a DJ, themed games and activities, and a costume contest. The event was a huge success with almost 300 people in attendance. This event was free for members due to the grant support. The opening of the RAC also brought the return of a long-time San Bruno event, the Polar Bear Plunge. The Polar Bear Plunge was held the morning of New Year's Day. Over 400 brave souls took an exhilarating dip into the cold outdoor pool. This event included a chilly swim, light refreshments, a commemorative item, and access to the indoor pool to help warm up after the plunge. Both of these events will be offered annually moving forward. The philosophy of subsidizing these events for members is to add value to the membership experience. The Recreation Division has a few other events planned in the next 6 months to help promote the RAC. On June 28th, the city will host a large community event to celebrate the first anniversary of the RAC. This event will include many components from San Bruno's Community Day with additional activities to showcase the RAC. The event will include a kids fun zone, live entertainment, a vendor marketplace, and a performance by Circus Bella. Circus Bella's inclusion in this event is possible by a grant that they received from this San Bruno Community Foundation. The RAC will also host hiring events this spring for part-time staff to help support summer programs and the overall operations. The date for these events are being finalized and will occur in the next couple months. The RAC will host a wedding and event expo in the fall in an effort to showcase the RAC as a premier rental space for business and life events. We are also evaluating other member events such as dinner and a movie in the community hall and a flick and float in the outdoor pool. We're always open to suggestions if community members have any other ideas for great events. Next slide, please. Here is a list of the grant subsidized programs that we have initiated so far. Every membership comes with 2 guest passes. that can be used to help introduce new people to the RAC. We have the inclement weather walking track program, which offers free admission to community members that would normally walk the loop in San Bruno Park. This program is open on rainy days and others days with extreme temperatures. The spectator and ADA companion passes allow family members and guardians access to the facility to provide needed support for people that cannot visit the facility alone. The support of the grant allows us to offer pilot initiatives such as instructor-led fitness classes to members and daily pass visitors without additional fees to help increase the value of attending. This grant also allows the RAC to fulfill requests from community organizations seeking to include RAC passes at their fundraising events to help introduce new people to the facility. The initial onboarding of contract instructors can be complex and comes with some initial upfront costs. Through the grant, we are able to cover the business license and insurance fees to assist the recruiting of new instructors for programs at the RAC. Some of the upcoming programs include elevating our fee assistance program for RAC programs, including classes and swim lessons that will be held at the facility this summer. We will start offering a child watch program that coincides with our fitness classes to allow parents time to work out while their children enjoy activities under the supervision of the recreation staff. We are also working to partner with the Silver Sneakers program and other healthcare fitness reimbursement opportunities to allow access to the RAC for people on a limited income. Next slide, please. A major part of planning the ongoing success of the RAC is the evaluation of the administrative strategies regarding pricing, marketing, and branding. RAC staff is collaborating with third-party vendors to assist with these strategies. We are currently evaluating the market value of our memberships and facility rental fees to align with similar facilities in the area while making sure that our fees are in line with the San Bruno market. This project will be completed soon, and any adjustments that are identified will be presented to the City Council as a part of the master fee schedule process. The marketing and branding for the RAC is another area of investment we are making through the utilization of the grant. Some of the items we are evaluating include a standalone website for the RAC, branding templates for ongoing marketing materials, and a social media marketing plan. Next slide, please. So this slide shows some samples of our new website design. You can see on the page on the left that we have some icons to make it easier for folks to find the programs that they might be searching for at our facility. And you might notice the website on the right, it's going to include a facility rental calculator estimate calculator to help allow people choose the correct room for their events and price point. Next slide, please. So as we are increasing our branding efforts, this is a picture of our winter and spring activity guide. We decided to change the layout from a typical portrait layout to a horizontal view, allowing our guide to stand out when mailed to the residents of San Bruno. We have received a lot of positive feedback from this change. This page also illustrates our rebranded logo. You can see it's the logo on the lower left. The new logo separates the name of the facility to make it easier to read on flyers and digital marketing efforts. Next slide, please. So this page provides a breakdown of the financial support we have used so far related to grant-supported programs and events. Thanks to the generous support of the foundation, we are able to enhance memberships through guest passes and events. We are also able to provide access to people that are not coming to use the facility, but instead helping others utilize the facility. So this is just a breakdown of some of the costs we've incurred so far. Next page, please. So here we illustrate the figures based on our plans for the remainder of the fiscal year. You can see that we have broken down the programs and events that we've done so far, along with some of the planned events and programs for the future. These ideas run through the end of the current fiscal year, which ends on June 30th. Okay, next slide, please. Moving forward, the RAC will continue their efforts to increase membership through promotional campaigns and enhancing the overall perceived value of membership, optimize the facility rental process with an enhanced website and additional staff support, enhance program offerings by streamlining the contract instructor onboarding process and recruiting more in-house instructors, finalizing assessments of our pricing structures with benchmarking and market analysis, develop community partnerships by meeting with local organizations and community members. These efforts will help create a financially sustainable model for the long-term success of the RAC. The next RAC update will be provided to the foundation at the end of the current fiscal year. Next slide. Thank you for allowing me to provide this update, and I am available for any questions.
Thanks, Damon. Any questions from any of our board members?
Have you noticed a preference for sports for the gymnasium use? Like, are you seeing mostly basketball use? I know my daughter's school has done some volleyball practices there, but I was just curious, because there's a switching time for all of those different activities.
For the general use of the gym for drop-in programs and things, basketball is certainly our primary activity that does generate the most attendance. We do notice a lot of attendance for our pickleball times, especially when the weather outside is not as pleasant. And then volleyball, seems like some days we have a handful of folks there, and some days it's not as utilized, so we are working on additional marketing efforts for the volleyball community while we continue to just evaluate how all these programs fit together in the facility.
Any other questions?
Yes, the value calculation, the $8, and then the 20 for the polar bear plunge. I'm just wondering what, if you can generally say what goes into that. And I'm primarily curious because is that something that, you know, to what extent will that sort of increase in future years?
Absolutely. So for our day pass subsidies, we chose $8 because that's kind of our mid-range price point. So our prices go from $4 for children up to $10 for adult non-residents. And so $8 is kind of our average price in the adult range. And so that's why we chose that value. In regards to the events, when we did the Monster Mash Bash, we did have it free for members. And sometimes when you offer something free, the attendance rate of the people who registered isn't always at the level that you want it to be. And so we just assigned a $5 fee for members so that they had a significant discount. And the value is $20 because that's what was charged to non-members.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Through the chair,
Yes.
with respect to membership, are we seeing only San Bruno members or are we seeing individuals outside of San Bruno?
We are seeing non-residents in addition to San Bruno residents. I don't have the split memorized, but it is primarily used by residents, but we do see a lot of members from out of the area.
Great, thank you, and thank you for a very great presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I guess I could just add to Vice President Ruang's question from the last presentation in regards to our summer programming. So we are excited to have a first full summer at the RAC. And so we are expecting to have a full traditional aquatics program filled with swim lessons in the morning, the evening, the weekends, recreational swimming in all the pools in the middle of the day, along with our current lap swim programs and things like that. We will also be enhancing our contract instructor classes at the RAC in our classrooms, while we're continuing to enhance contract classes for sports in our gymnasium, while still trying to provide drop-in access for all of our members.
Thank you, Damien.
You're welcome.
At the very beginning, I had heard some comments that the hours for the swimming was a little bit erratic because there wasn't always lifeguard available. Has that stabilized, or are you still having staffing issues there?
So our schedule is certainly stabilized. I think what happened to us is we opened in the middle of the summer when all the kids are out of school, so we're able to just open our doors and let everyone come in. But then once the teenage staff went back to school, we had to reduce our hours a little bit. And so one thing that we've done with our gymnasium and our pool is we have online schedules that we can update in real time in case that there is a unplanned emergency or something else that might affect operations. I do know that last month, we were able to increase our pool programming hours just a little bit. We used to open at 11:30. We moved that to 11 in the mornings after our morning break. And then we also were able to start opening the facility at 4 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. So it is our goal to expand that so that we are open for one, based on our staffing availability, but also our community need to make sure that we're not just opening the pool for 2 or 3 people.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Anything from the public?
There are no hands raised from the public online.
Great. Unless there are no further questions or comments from the board, that concludes this item. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Moving on to item C, receive report on the downtown beautification initiative from the city of San Bruno. Last March, the board approved a $350,000 grant to the city of San Bruno to support a series of projects to improve the visibility and appearance of the San Bruno's downtown, including planter revitalization along San Mateo Avenue, the potential planting of trees on Genevieve Avenue, median landscape revitalization, the creation of the new street pole banners, and the replacement of the marquee sign on the south end of San Mateo Avenue. This grant is structured so that the city will submit one grant report when all projects are completed, after which the foundation will distribute a single grant payment of up to $350,000. As a result, the foundation has not yet made any grant payments on this grant. I'd like to invite now Community Services Director Travis Carlin back to the podium to give us the update on the downtown beautification projects.
Thank you again, President Tani Jones and members of the board. I don't have a presentation tonight, but I brought some props. So this has been a project that's been a long time in the making, and we started this last year. One of the things that I wanted to share with you is that I did have a meeting last week with Calendar and Associates. They are working on a number of projects for us. And just to get an update on this project, they are at about 60% design, which means that it's at a point now where they can submit their plans for plan review. So that will be coming into the city likely this week yet for plan review. We should be able to turn that around pretty quickly. But then once we have our comments back to them, they can go to the 90% plans on that. So my hope is that we are able to put this out for a construction bid sometime in April. And then usually that stays open for about a month, month and a half. And then we should be able to award that bid by June or probably June. And then get the planter project underway. And I think that that project probably will take about 6 months to complete. So we're looking at the end of the calendar year to finish out the planter and the trees and things along San Mateo. I think once it's done, the community and the business owners are going to be very pleased with what we came up with. There's definitely some elevation with, we're actually going to be doing some trees in the planters again, but a different species that has more longevity in those planters. So we're excited to offer that. The other thing I did mention at the last meeting that I presented on this subject is that we are placing the marquee on hold right now because there is a little bit of a plan to look at the transit corridor plan and see if there's a way for us to redevelop that area where that where the island is, where the marquee sign currently stands. So we'll be looking at that. But the one part that we did finish, and you're going to see the results of this hopefully next week, is we did get all of our banners done. And so I brought some banners here to share with you. The first set of banners that are going to go up are our City with a Heart banners. So this is what they look like.
Oh,
And so these will be put up, and these are actually were printed in 4 different colors. So as you go down San Mateo, it's going to be 4 different colors that stand out here. And as you can see, it's the neighborhood with the heart that's on there. And so I think that this one turned out really, really well. We wanted to do some holiday banners that weren't just Christmas. And so we really did more of a celebratory banners for Christmas. And these are going to be alternating. So you have this one here, which is just a lot of streamers and good color going down. Oh, is it upstairs? Sorry. Thank you. So this one's just got a lot of different color with the ribbons and things that are falling here. And then the other side will be this banner. I realize that I'm not in the camera for Jim and. Okay. So that's that one. And then in the summertime, we were really trying to capture like the summer spirit and then also patriotism. So one of them is going to be the poppies that are going to go down the boulevard. Or I should say the avenue. And then the other one has the poppies as well, but then incorporates the American flag. And this is actually the flag that flies up at the cemetery. So they were able to capture that. So these will be up from Memorial Day to Labor Day. So the Public Works Department is helping us with hanging these. They were just working on a light project and hopefully that's wrapping up this week. And then they will be able to do this as their next project to get these up on the avenue. So hopefully next week.
Awesome. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
It was great.
Great.
Actually, I have one through the chair. Travis, welcome back. Happy to see you back again in San Bruno. But with the transit corridor plan, do you have any insight as to what the timelines are for when they're going to start moving forward? Or
yeah, I don't have the answer for that. I know that it was just basically an initiation of the conversation at this point. Peter Gilly from Community Development will be heading up that. I have to circle back with him to see if that's gotten any traction. And then we'll be determining like how we move forward on that.
Great, thank you.
Any questions or anybody from the public?
No questions online.
Okay, unless there are no further comments from the board, that concludes this item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Item D, receive report on other programs, including Crestmore Scholarship, Community Grants Fund, and other strategic grants. I'll turn it over to you, Leslie.
Okay, so Jessica and I have been very busy with our community grants and Crestmore Scholarship programs. The Crestmore Scholarship deadline was yesterday. Jessica's not here tonight because she's dealing with all the applications right now, checking them for completeness and eligibility. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And numbers are a little lower this year, which we were anticipating in the ramp up, just based on attendance at workshops and registrations, and actually talking to our colleagues at Cappuccino High School who said, just in general with the current senior class, sort of in terms of kids planning to go to four-year college, kids applying for other scholarships, has just been lower. And we're not sure if it's just, a function of this class, or also just there have been some immigration-related concerns if families have immigration status questions of not wanting to fill out the FAFSA and other scholarship materials that you have to submit to the government, given the current political climate. So the numbers are a little low, but I thought they might be really low. And they ended up actually being just barely below what the last couple of years have been. So it's been good, although 75% of the applications came in like the final 24 hours before the deadline. A lot of procrastination going on. But applications are in. Jessica's about, assessing all of them right now. We have assembled our 20-person review panel, and we'll be getting everything ready for them in the next about week and a half, and then we'll train them, set them off on their way, and deliberations will be in April. And we will notify them by the end of April. So we are all on track. With regard to the Community Grants Fund, we have executed all 29 grant agreements, which is great, and we're almost done with distributing the grant checks to the organizations. There's only a couple left. Thank you to all of you who have been helping with those distributions. And a special thank you to Belinda this year. She is the winner of doing the most check presentations. I think she'll have done a total of 6 by the end of this.
I have one left.
Yeah, one coming up. So those have been great though, and most of them actually this year, we're doing many more in person, which I know also then is a little tougher for people to do, but it's been great to actually get out and do them in person. I've done a lot of the ones actually farther down south where we don't even really ask you guys because it's a little out of the way. And the grantees have been so appreciative and grateful for the money, but also grateful for the interest of us going and talking to them and presenting the grant checks in person. And then the last program I wanted to report on tonight orally is on the Crestmore Fields project. So as you know, we had approved a $3.4 million grant for phase 1 of the Crestmore Fields on February 6th. So about a month ago, the sale of the former Crestmore High School site by the San Mateo Union High School District to Summerhill Homes closed. So the sale officially closed. And then immediately Summerhill sold the project to Toll Brothers. And this has all been planned. I mean, they knew this was gonna happen. It was easier because they were already so far down the path with Summerhill to just complete that transaction, and then Summerhill and Toll Brothers did a transaction. Toll Brothers actually started demolition in late 2024. And the city is currently processing the subdivision map for building permits and construction. The city is engaged with Calendar, that's the same group that's helping with some of the downtown beautification efforts for the next phase of the project, which is design development. This phase will result in the construction documents to a 30% level of completion. The city's in the process of developing and presenting for city council review an action and improvement agreement for development impact fee credit with Toll Brothers and for them to do the actual construction for phase 1. So the project is moving along. The city though has said it's a complicated project with the various actors. We'd not be surprised if it does take a little bit longer than anticipated, but the sale went through, which is great news, and the project is proceeding on track at this point. So that's my report on programs.
Any questions from the board? Okay. If there are no questions from the board, are there any questions from the public?
There are no questions online.
Okay, great. Unless there are no further comments from the board, that concludes the report on the other programs. Thank you, Leslie. Moving on to item E, receive report from audit committee and adopt resolution authorizing President Melissa Nathaniel Jones to execute a contract with Novogradac and Company LLP for audit and tax preparation services for fiscal year 24-25 for the amount not to exceed $11,600. As chair of the audit committee, Secretary Gomez will provide the report.
Thank you, President Melissa Nathaniel Jones. The Foundation's fiscal policies and procedures require the Foundations to issue a request for proposal for audit and tax preparation services at least every 5 years and charges the audit committee, supported by the executive committee, with creating the RFP, reviewing the audit proposals, and recommending a certified public accounting firm to the full board for approval. While the fiscal policies and procedures require issuing an RFP at least every 5 years, they do not require that the board make a change in CPA firms. The Foundation last issued an RFP in late 2019 and selected Novogradac to prepare the Foundation's fiscal year 2019 and 20 audit in 2020. As we reported in November, as Novogradac has now prepared the foundation's audit financial statements and tax returns for 5 consecutive years since the last RFP, the foundation issued a new RFP for the fiscal year of 2024 and 25 audit and tax preparation. In November, the executive director distributed the RFP to about a dozen Bay Area CPA firms with nonprofit practices. We received 5 proposals by the January 10 deadline. In late January, the audit committee met and discussed the proposals and next steps in the auditor selection process. The committee now recommends that the foundation continue its relationship with Novogradac to provide an audit and tax preparation service fiscal years 24 and 25. Novogradac is a national certified public accounting and consulting firm headquartered in San Francisco with more than 25 offices nationwide. Novogradac has a substantial nonprofit practice and expertise, and its nonprofit clients include community foundations, community development organizations, and health, welfare, and legal service organizations. In recommending Novogradac, the community took into consideration a variety of factors, including the quality of the submitted proposals, the firm's relevant experience, and the proposed fees. We have been extremely pleased with the service we have received from Novogradac, and they are able to do so at such a cost significantly lower than the other firms. The foundation's engagement team at Novogradac would continue to be led by Lance Smith. Just as it did in 2020, the committee requested that Mr. Smith agreed that rotating staff accountants working on the foundation's account as a result to 2 primary accountants who have been handling the foundation's accounts for the past 5 years would be moved off, and 2 new accountants would be assigned to the foundation. The community believes that this rotation of the accountants closely reviewing the foundation accounting books would bring a set of fresh eyes to the audit, but still enable the firm to leverage its years of experience with the foundation. Novogradac's proposed fees are $8,900 for audit services and $2,700 for tax preparation for fiscal years 2024 and 25, for a total of $11,600, with slightly higher fees for fiscal years 25, 26, and 26 to 27. This is a small increase over the foundation's prior fiscal years from 23-24, which was $8,700 for an audit services and $2,600 for tax preparation, for a total of $11,300. Notably, the fees for the second lowest proposal, $18,000 for audit services and $4,750 for tax preparation, for a total of $22,750, were nearly double Novogradac's. The total fees for the other 3 firms range from $25,100 to about $38,000. The committee recommends the board adopt a resolution authorizing President Melissa Natani Jones to execute a contract with Novogradac and Company LLP for audit and tax preparation services for fiscal years 24 and 25 for the amount not to exceed $11,600. That is my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the board? Are there any hands raised from the public?
There are not.
Okay. If there are no comments, may I have a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing President Melissa Natani Jones to execute contract with Novogradac and Company LLP for audit and tax preparation services for fiscal year 24-25 for an amount not to exceed $11,600?
So
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, great. I'll turn it over to Leslie for a roll call vote, please.
Board Member Belinda Wong.
Aye.
Board Member Supriya Perry.
Aye.
Treasurer Pat Flynn.
Aye.
Secretary Raul Gomez.
Aye.
Vice President Jim Ruane.
Aye.
President Melissa Natani Jones.
Aye. Thank you, board. We will now conclude that item. Thank you again, Secretary Gomez.
Thank you.
Now to item F, receive report from Investment Committee on its February 19, 2025 regular meeting. As Chair of the Investment Committee, Treasurer Lynn will provide this report.
Thank you, President Natani Jones. I just want to check a mic check that you could hear me from Zoom. Okay, so this is loud enough and I'll try to project this level. So on February 19th, we did have our quarterly meeting for investments, for the investment committee. There was really only one item that was discussed, and that was the presentation from Sandhill Global Advisors, to give the committee an outlook of, or an overview of economic conditions, as well as the portfolio performance for the committee, or for the foundation. I won't go into a whole lot of details in terms of the economic conditions. It was great up until the new administration. Things are changing every day, and they are actually, the good thing about Sandhill is while there were questions that were asked, and it shows they were on top of it, and they're reading literatures about it and pivoting as they need to, as long as it complies with our portfolio investment policy. With that said, as of December 31st of 2024, we had $31 million total in all three buckets. The three buckets includes the quasi-endowment of $24 million, the strategic pool at $5 million, and the liquidity at 1.4. Sandhill did so from the start of the investment of $61 million to now, Sandhill also have added $22.2 million as an added value based on the investments. Now, of course, it does matter probably where are we now at this point. So as of today, total value of the portfolio is 30.9. So actually increased by about $200,000. Whether that's going to sustain, we're not going to go into the crystal ball about that. There was a drawdown from the liquidity pool of about $400,000, bringing that from 1.4 to about $800,000 at this point. Strategic pool went from 5.4 to 5.5, and the quasi went from 24.2 to 24.6. So that's really is it in terms of the overview of the financials or the investments. And then our next meeting will be May 21st.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the board? Are there any hands raised from the public?
There were no hands first.
Okay. Unless there are no further comments from the board, that concludes investment committee report. Thank you, Treasurer Lynn. Moving on to item 9 of this evening, which is our study session, and that is to receive report from Ad Hoc Committee on Strategic Planning, approve resolution directing the SBCF President and Executive Director to send a letter to the City of San Bruno and City Council expressing the Foundation's interest in exploring potential legacy capital projects with the City of San Bruno, and provide additional direction to the Ad Hoc Committee and staff regarding potentially revising the Foundation's program and investment strategies and further strategic planning deliberations. Before I begin, it's going to be a lot. I think the context is important. At the February board meeting, the board continued its post-REC strategic planning deliberation to determine the Foundation's program and investment strategies once the REC grants are fully dispersed. The board confirmed that it wants to focus its discussions on 2 main options. 1, spending down the remaining funds in the near to mid-term on 1 or 2 large legacy projects and winding down all other programs. And 2, spending down the remaining funds over a set period of time, for example, 10 to 25 years, with a target annual budget, with several board members expressing a preference with several board members expressing a preference for option number 1, if an appropriate final legacy project can be identified as the best use of the Foundation's remaining funds for the long-term benefit of the community. A reimagined library and a new fire station 52 were mentioned as capital projects that the Foundation might want to consider funding. The board also created a new ad hoc committee on strategic planning made up of myself, Vice President Ruane, and Secretary Gomez to lead the board's strategic planning deliberations. This committee is charged with researching and evaluating potential program and investment strategies for use of the foundation's remaining assets, researching potential legacy projects and engaging with potential community partners such as the City of San Bruno and the San Bruno Park School District, and making recommendations to the board in the development of the foundation's post-RAC strategic plan. The committee met in February, confirmed the board's desire to investigate possible legacy projects under option number 1, including a new fire station 52 and reimagined library. The committee notes that the RAC, a decade of Crestmore scholarships and community grants, and another 10 million in other strategic grants, including the Crestmore Fields project, Centennial Plaza, Florida Avenue Park, the Music Education Strategic Initiative, just to name a few. And a final legacy project or two would be an extremely meaningful legacy arising out of the restitution funds that properly honors the Crestmore neighborhood and the tragedy that our city suffered in 2010. Based on the discussion at the board meeting, the committee concluded that the city is most likely partner for the final legacy project, although it hasn't ruled out considering using a smaller portion for the remaining assets to contribute to one of the capital projects of the San Bruno Park School District, is considering at Parkside Intermediate School. If the timing and the math work out, but it seems most appropriate to devote the bulk of the remaining funds to a project with the city that has broad community impact. We discussed the need in order to move forward with option number 1, to engage with the city to explore potential legacy projects that would make sense for both the city and the foundation. We decided that a formal letter to the city council outlining our thoughts and a request for the city to engage in a discussion with the board to identify and explore possible legacy projects would be a helpful way to move us forward. We directed the executive director to draft the letter, which committee members reviewed and provided feedback on. The letter is in the meeting packet, and we hope you've had a chance to read it. The letter summarizes the foundation's original program and investment strategies and its recent post-REC strategic plan deliberations. It requests the city to engage with the foundation to identify a final legacy project in which to invest the bulk of the foundation's remaining assets, and asks the city council to consider this request at the next available opportunity in order to move any joint discussions forward promptly. We are asking the board to approve the resolution directing me and the executive director, Jaramillo, to send the letter to the city council. In response to the discussion at the February board meeting, the committee also began discussing possible wind down timelines, including for the Crestmore Scholarship and the Community Grants Fund, if the board were to pursue a final legacy project under option number 1. The committee anticipates that the board is able to formally endorse option number 1 this spring in order to maximize the funds available for a final legacy project or 2. It may make sense for the foundation to freeze all existing programs starting in fiscal year 25-26 and not award any further scholarships or grants except for a final legacy project or projects. The one exception might be additional grant funding for permanent lighting as part of phase 1 of the Crestmore Fields project, which the board has already expressed a willingness to consider after more concrete cost information is obtained. In addition to pursuing a final legacy project, the foundation would focus on the administration of previously awarded grants and scholarships, many of which are multi-year and involve additional payments of grant and scholarship funds and reporting obligations of grantees and scholarship recipients. The committee has also discussed the implications of eventually winding down the current version of the foundation under both options number 1 and number 2. We know the board is reluctant to expand the foundation's current business plan to include a major fundraising component, which would be a very different organization than what it currently is. We have discussed that if the current version of the San Bruno Community Foundation were to wind down and there was community interest in having a foundation continue to serve San Bruno, the best option might be for a group of interested community members to establish a 501c3 that is unaffiliated with the city so that it could operate like more a traditional community foundation that exists in other communities. Existing as a public agency created by the city has had its operational challenges. An independent foundation might be more flexible, be able to operate more nimbly, and have more fundraising success than the current foundation, which is often viewed as an arm of the city. Before we get to the resolution, we'd like to hear from the public and then have a discussion with the board about the letter, next steps, and further direction to the committee and staff. Are there any hands raised from the community or from the public?
There are not.
There are not, okay. Now I'd like to have a discussion with the board. Any questions or comments from the board?
To the chair. Was on the committee. I told Leslie the letter was long, but it has to be. It explains in detail what we have done as a foundation over these numbers of years, especially the sheet that shows financially what we've contributed to all of these different entities and organizations and what we've done for this city. We started out with $70 million, increased it to 92, I believe, with good investment policy. And now we have a number of millions left. My personal feeling, and I voiced it at the last meeting, also with the subcommittee, is that we have to pick. I think it's worthwhile for the city to pick and beneficial for everyone to pick one, maybe two legacy projects going forward, whether that be the fire station, which in fact, frankly, we promised people up there it would bring this city back full circle, especially in that neighborhood as to what happened and the tragedy we experienced. I know there's been some discussions by the public saying, oh, geez, maybe we should keep it going. But you still have investment expenses. You still have, just like we have tonight, auditor expenses, all of the different things. And it has to be run by someone. So those are expenses there that will dwindle down that monies over a period of time. So I think the best bang for the bucks that we have left is to pick a legacy project and get that letter to the city as soon as possible so we can get this city council on board with us to work together with us to see what the best project is going to be for the city going forward. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure. Yes, to the chair. In terms of freezing programs for the 2025-2026 fiscal year, have we, in terms of planning, I think, and especially sort of some of the community grants, some organizations have received funding for 3 years in a row. Others might be mid that, so some might fully expect that they're not going to receive further funding. But are we sort of socializing this in any way I know that there aren't necessarily expectations when you apply for any grant funding. And is it possible to socialize it so that it's not just sort of, as we enter the next fiscal year, that anyone is taken too much by surprise?
So we haven't been publicly saying it yet because we don't want to get ahead of where the board is, quite frankly. But part of these discussions that the board is having right now is the start of that education process.
Right. Yeah. So nothing has been confirmed, but certainly once the board has made a decision, then I think it's as soon as possible we would start to, have that conversation.
As a follow-up, I know we have received 100,000 from YouTube for the last 8 years. One of the questions would be, where would we redirect them, right? I think if they came to us because we had a broader charter. I would think we would want to encourage them to continue to fund the community, but maybe through, I don't know if that, does that we would redirect them to some of the other foundations that, like, I would keep that in mind as we think of how we ramp down.
Great idea.
I think we would first see wherever we are headed, whether they would have any interest in contributing to that. And then potentially redirecting them elsewhere in the community. Just so you know, our main contact at Google actually has just left. And so there is a new person that we would have to work with. So to be honest, I don't know how it will go this year if we make that ask again. Because they've also had, some turnover.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions? Raul, did you
Yeah,
have any?
sorry about that. I was on mute. Yeah, through the chair, I just wanted to mention and say that it was great work on Leslie's part, as always, to really put together the summary, as Jim had alluded to, in the sense that it has to be a long letter because there's just so much great history of what this community foundation have already accomplished over the years it's been in existence. So I just want to say that, after our committee meetings and reflecting on where we should land, I'm still steadfast in the sense that one legacy project or working with the San Bruno Park School District on a project like Parkside or something is the best way for this community foundation to move forward. So just want to say that, after after just giving it some more thought, I just really think that we're landing on the exact right place, and that's exactly where my heart is having that like Jim referenced, full circle, just giving back to where it started. So just wanted to again provide my input and feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think I'll just add that I'm in agreement. I think we've seen how successful the RAC has been for the city of San Bruno and how it's gonna last for a really, really long time. And that, for me, is something that I would like to see us utilize for our post-RAC finances, is to also invest in something like that. And certainly, as mentioned in our last meeting, the city can't do everything, right? And we can't do everything, but I think a legacy project that could benefit the community and benefit the city of San Bruno long past all of us would be most sufficient for me. So, okay. Anything else? Nope. Okay. If there are no further comments from the board members, may I have a motion to adopt the resolution directing the San Bruno Community Foundation President and Executive Director to send a letter to the City of San Bruno and the City Council expressing the Foundation's interest in exploring potential legacy capital projects to the City of San Bruno?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. And I'll turn it over to you, Leslie, for a roll call vote.
Board Member Belinda Wong.
Aye.
Board Member Supriya Perry.
Aye.
Treasurer Packlin.
Aye.
Secretary Raul Gomez.
Aye.
Vice President Jim Ruane.
Aye.
And President Melissa Natani Jones.
Aye. Thank you, board. Now to item number 10, board member comments. I just have one. If there are no board member have any additional comments, any comments from the public on the board member comments? No, wants to respond. Okay. Moving to item number 11, closed session. Conference with labor negotiations pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. Agency designated representative, board president Melissa Natani Jones. Underrepresented employee executive director. The next agenda item will take place in closed session. The item is a conference with labor negotiations pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. This item is to discuss any adjustments to the executive director's compensation. The agency designated representative is myself, board president Melissa Natani Jones. The underrepresented employee is the executive director. Before we go into closed session, would any members of the public like to address the board on agenda item number 11?
There are no hands raised.
Okay. We will now go into closed session. We will adjourn the meeting after the closed session items and will not be returning to the public meeting. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025 at 7:00 p.m. And that's it.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Raul.
Thanks, Jim, Raul.
Thank you.
Have a good night.